Crap. All right, here we go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, on YouTube. More of that paranormal portal fun that we just have come to adore right here on the show. Welcome, everybody. Hope you're doing great. I hope you can hear us now. We are, of course, teaming up with Freaky Friday. As I just mentioned, we had 3 fun-filled hours with them, and now we brought them over here. Kev and I were able to pull this together.
Kicking and screaming.
Brought them kicking and screaming. They didn't want to be here, but they are. And
no, we are. We're proud to be here.
Oh, thank you, brother.
Usually we just hand over the baton, the chalice of woo, and let you guys run with it. But no, I do enjoy these Friday the 13th, don't you think, Scott?
Oh man, it's absolutely fantastic, and it's great to team up with the Paranormal Portal, with Brent and Don, and get their perspective on a lot of the stuff that we talk about, and they bring a lot of knowledge and their sort of angle and perspective on everything to the table, and it makes for awesome discussion. We get to talk about these things and just kind of throw out all of our different theories and ideas, and we get to what me and Kev have been doing lately, setting sail for Speculation Island. I like getting into that whole just kind of throwing it out there, and hey, if there's something to it, then there's something to it, and if there's not, whatever. But it's always good to speculate. It gets the juices flowing in the mind, and it makes for good conversation. So yeah,
and we always emphasize, we do, Scott. We always emphasize when we're speculating, as opposed to trying to tell people that we know what we're talking about. Who knows what they're talking about when we get into some of these subjects, guys? And we touched on that earlier. But yeah, we're always very, very keen to separate the facts from our speculatory fiction. And that's why we sometimes play the Love Boat, isn't it, Scott? We set sail, we go to Speculation Island, and everyone appreciates that what happens from that point forward, we hold no responsibility. So we're looking forward to getting dragged through the paranormal portal.
That's right, Kevin. Just know you are always our Captain Stubing.
Oh, I tell you
Love boat, come on. That was a tough sell, wasn't it? Jeez, it was funny in my head for what it was worth. But I actually remember that show. I was forced to watch that as a child. So
the Love Boat.
Thank you, Don.
Brilliant show. Brilliant show.
Yeah.
Actually quite funny. But if you watch that now, because the world's changed so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually like you'll end up watching it through your fingers.
Yeah.
Because it's so politically incorrect. They fat shame people, they ugly shame people. I tell you, it was a simpler time back on the Love Boat, guys.
But I think
the Love Boat any day of the week.
I think, though, that people knew how to laugh at themselves then, too, and I think that's kind of a lost art nowadays. Everybody's so hurt and sensitive, and it's like, I understand, nobody should be degrading and just, really hurting somebody in an emotional way, but at the same time, you got to laugh at yourself. If you can't laugh, you're in a bad place.
Well, also think about Fantasy Island. The plane! What the hell?
No. It's the place to be.
Oh, horrible.
It was, man. Yep, Mr. Rourke.
Yep.
But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we got a whole bunch of fun-filled paranormal fun to bring to you tonight on our segment here. Kev and Scotty, I want you guys to know, and I suppose I should introduce you. To those of you that aren't familiar with the Kev Baker Show, of course, we have Kev Baker, who is on the right side of the guest screen, and then Scott Lopez is on the left side of the screen. 2 wonderful gentlemen, good longtime friends of the shows. They also have shows on TFR, which we do as well. That's our mother network. That's where we launched the Paranormal Portal, was on TFR. And so Kev and Scotty have that actually, Kev, I learned a bit about hosting just by watching you, because when I started, I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't.
I tell you what, man, watching you would never know that, because you actually look like you know what you're doing. So.
It's a hard sell, but I think I'm working the angles as best I can. But no, you do the Kev Baker Show, of course, Kev, and then you do Freaky Friday. And Scotty, I know you're on. Are you also doing the Kev Baker Show as well as the Freaky Friday too?
Yeah, I join Kev on Thursdays on the Kev Baker Show, and then we do Freaky Friday, and yeah, I'm just the wingman.
Are you
I'm,
still hanging out?
No. Nobody, Scott. You're nobody's wingman. We're equals. We are entangled joint hosts. There you
Quantum
go. Dude.
entangled.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Scotty,
Yeah.
are you still helping out Chris Everard on his show, or?
He hasn't done the show for a while, so
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
yeah. Anytime he gives me the call and wants me to help him out, then yeah, I'm
Your game. Gotcha.
I'm all for it. Yeah, I'll do it.
You
So
don't think though, like when Everard goes missing like this, it's always worth it. I mean, it's horrible when he's not on at the time, right? We don't get to hear him.
Right.
But you know he's going to come back with some Indiana Everard kind of like adventure tells about. You know it. He'll be like underneath some temple in some country
Yes.
that nobody's heard of.
Yeah.
There'll be this glowing chalice of woo, and Everard will give you the full backstory. You know.
that's why I'm not too worried when I don't hear from him for a while, because I know that man is hard at work
Yes.
uncovering some kind of deep woo and doing some deep research into something. So
Yeah.
I'm always on standby, and whenever he gives me the call, I'm there. So
He's definitely one of the most prolific documentarians of our time. There's no question.
Oh,
But
yeah.
just an incredible guy on top of that. But that's cool. Now I got to tell you guys, I found an article earlier this week. I was like, Don, what do you think? Should I do this now, or should I save it for Friday? And I was like, save it for Friday. So, gentlemen, now this is not necessarily paranormal, but it kind of is. It kind of is because it's so damn weird. I don't know what to make of it.
Do you want to give that scientific fact you found out on Wednesday too? Again?
Wait, what? I'm not remembering.
Never mind then.
Oh, well, all right. So what I found, you guys, was an article from Psychology Today, and it's, .com. So it's like the real deal. And the headline reads this: transplantation of schizophrenia via gut microbiome. So let me read a little bit of this article, and then we'll discuss, because I haven't read it. I made a point not to read it so that we would all be introduced to this together.
Good man. We like raw reaction. That's what we like.
So, but by the title of it, it scares the hell out of me, because it sounds like, it could be airborne or something. I don't know what the hell that means. But anyway, it says the gut microbiome contributes to psychiatric symptoms via changes in serotonin. It says genetic and environmental factors contribute to schizophrenia. Science has not yet determined how these two factors interact to produce the diverse array of behavioral and neurochemical changes in the brains of these patients. During the past few years, scientists have focused on the role of gut microbiome as an underlying cause of some aspects of schizophrenia. This concept is no longer considered science fiction. The bugs in your gut are known to communicate indirectly with your brain via the release of large variety of chemicals. Your brain functions, as well as your general health, is profoundly dependent upon these chemicals. Many studies have shown that a shift in the mixture of these bugs or the chemicals they release can make you vulnerable to certain mental and physical disorders. What's the connection to schizophrenia? It says, let's imagine you have inherited genes from your parents that predispose you to develop schizophrenia. A recent study suggests that those same genes influence the balance of bugs in your gut, and together they determine some of the symptoms of your schizophrenia. I realize that this seems like a really big leap of logic. However, a few microbial bug species have already been shown to be associated with both schizophrenia and its genetically related condition, bipolar disorder. Your intestinal microbiome or gut bugs modulates many critical body systems, such as the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis, as well as the release of adrenal corticotrophic hormone and corticosterone. These symptoms function abnormally in schizophrenic patients. Your gut microbiome also indirectly modulates the metabolism of serotonin in the brain via their control of tryptophan in your blood. Previous studies have shown that the microbiomes in the feces of patients, yep, somebody does that, folks, with schizophrenia actively disturb tryptophan metabolism in both the peripheral and certain nervous systems. Some of these tryptophan metabolites are now thought to contribute to the learning and cognitive defects associated with schizophrenia. Now, obviously, I could go on and on and on. There's only 2 more paragraphs. Let me just finish it if you don't mind. It says, a recent study investigated whether the microbiomes in your gut play a role in the symptoms of schizophrenia. What they did may sound a little crazy. These scientists transplanted the fecal matter, i.e. poop, from humans diagnosed with schizophrenia into mice. Poor mice, man. They really got the short straw on that deal. The human fecal microbiomes quickly made themselves at home in the mouse intestines and survived for at least 2 weeks and then disappeared gradually. Take note, it's not easy to change your microbiome. Whatever you have read about probiotic supplements that claim to correct your gut microbiome is total nonsense designed to sell you a useless and rather expensive placebo. The mice in this study developed many schizophrenic-like behavior abnormalities. The authors were able to correlate many of these behavioral changes to altered tryptophan metabolism. The fecal transplant did not reproduce all of the symptoms of schizophrenia, and alterations in the gut microbiome are not the sole cause of schizophrenia. However, this study provided further evidence for a functional role of the gut microbiota in the pathophysiology of schizophrenia. Similar studies may lead to effective and safer therapies for schizophrenia in the future. You know what I'm thinking when I'm reading that, guys? Those mushrooms that make ants go crazy and like, you know, they're like taking control. And I don't know that I'm translating that correctly.
It's really cool. I've never heard that article before, but I do remember, and I just checked there. But you've actually got one of the biggest kind of gatherings of neurons outside of the brain, and it exists in your gut.
Right.
It's actually 100 million of them or something like that. So we have that direct connection. But as for schizophrenia itself, I mean, if you're playing about with the chemicals in the body, sure, there's going to be effects that are probably measurable.
Sure.
But when it comes to schizophrenia in general, I've always been very open to the fact that maybe we don't fully understand what's going on there. And maybe there's nothing wrong with the person per se. Mm-hmm. Maybe they actually see more of the light spectrum. Maybe they're open to more things. Maybe they hear the many worlds that we only sometimes catch a little glimpse of. Not saying that's always the case, but it's a very interesting condition. Anything to do with the brain, because our brain is it's how we interpret reality. It's how we create reality, you know, electrical signals. So anything happening in there, I think it's always interesting to kind of talk about the effects and what could be going on, because, again, I know that Elon Musk is talking about chipping us and everything else, but I still think there's some things about our mind, consciousness in particular, that maybe our brains, as good as they are, they can't comprehend. There's a level it gets to, and the concepts that we're trying to talk about here, maybe we don't even have the language for it, guys, but that's my long-winded response to that.
Yeah. What do you think, Scotty?
Well, I mean, when it comes to the gut, I mean, I've heard for a long time, you know, people say that it's almost like your secondary brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's a direct connection there between your gut and your brain. So it totally makes sense that whatever is going on in the gut is going to have an effect on the rest of your body. I mean, that's why it's so important. You know, your gut health in general will make you feel better, you know, mentally. Right. You know, you feel more clear-headed and everything once you start eating a healthy diet and you get your kind of your gut biome in order. And so, yeah, it makes sense to me. And, you know, that's why whenever you're, say, in a place and you all of a sudden you get that spidey sense, that feeling in your gut. See, that's where that term comes from. You get the feeling in your gut that something isn't right. I mean, that's your brain and that's your brain giving a signal to your gut telling you, hey, something's not wrong, and giving you that queasy feeling in your stomach. You know, they're directly connected. So Yeah, and then going to what Kev was saying, about schizophrenia and other, people that quote have mental disorders. I mean, there is a level of people that genuinely have a problem, you know. But I also think that there's a lot of people that are classified, like, say, either being schizophrenic or on the 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 quote unquote autism spectrum,
Yeah.
that I think their minds are more opened up to viewing or being able to see things that the average person can't see. And you got to think, if you're opened up like that, it's got to probably be really hard to even deal with that. It's almost like information overload.
Right.
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 Yeah.
And if your mind is opened up to seeing beyond the veil, I guess you could say, or this spectrum of reality that most people can't experience or don't even experience, then yeah, it probably would to a certain extent drive you crazy, because you're being overwhelmed on a constant basis. But I think that there's a percentage of these people that we were talking about like asylums and stuff, earlier on Freaky, and you were talking about like all of the sort of pain and energy that is
Right. Trapped in there.
imbued, trapped in those places. How many of those people there really probably weren't crazy?
Right.
Yeah.
And they were just experiencing this, spectrum of reality that nobody else experiences, and it kind of drove them to that point, or they were just put in there because they were assumed to be crazy. And so, yeah, I think that that's a whole kind of realm of like, when you say somebody's crazy, are they really crazy?
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think it's really interesting though, because somebody said it in the chat room just a second ago. I'm not sure who it was, but I feel the same way. Is the gut is the brain, but the brain is the processor. The process is the information, and that's just kind of the CPU of it. The brain starts in the gut. I thought it was interesting though that when you were reading that, Brent, that it said that buying all these probiotics and this, that, and the other thing is just a bunch of hokum. Did you catch that part?
I did, and I wanted to comment on that too. But go ahead. I want to see what you got to say.
Well, I think it's interesting that we find that we're sold this bill of goods saying medicine and medication. Let me say medication is good for you because it brings things back into where they're supposed to be. But then when you get onto the more naturopathy kind of thing, they start to poo-poo it a lot. Settled science says it's not true.
Right.
But what was the medical field before we institutionalized it? It was people like Pharmacy Seeds Network. It was people like these naturopaths and the chiropractors and all of these shamans, exactly.
Herbalists.
And they were the healers.
Yep.
They were the ones who were using earth to heal what was going wrong.
Right.
Now, I thoroughly believe that everything that's going wrong in our human species is because we've gotten away from that. And there's a whole lot of people, and I know I just triggered farm. There's a whole lot of people that say the same thing. Now, I believe that a lot of our problems that we have with mental illnesses, physical, like ALS and all these things, are due to what we eat. Now, somebody else in the chat said, well, if the microbes in your stomach are what regulates what your body does and how you act and things like this, then why doesn't the food affect it? Well, the food does affect it. Now I'm going to bring up what Scotty was talking about autism and spectrum disorders like that. Being as I have some, people in my life that have, Asperger's and autism. I do thoroughly believe that it's quite possible that these people whether you call them indigo children, Asby kids, or kids with Asperger's syndrome and autism, especially the lower functioning ones that are nonverbal and possibly not even mobile. I agree with you, Scotty, that maybe they're seeing beyond the veil and they can't process what they're seeing, or maybe they're just connected in a different way. And we have to tap into that.
Right.
There are these ideas, but I do not believe that what that report alluded to about probiotics being a bunch of hokum. Here's the thing. If we didn't put all this garbage in our food and alter it and take care of all of that, if we were eating natural again, I believe that we as a species would be all around healthier.
So this is what I wanted to say, is that they said, oh, the probiotics, yeah, that's a bunch of hogwash. You can't change the gut microbiome.
Yes, you can.
But what did they do? They took fecal matter from schizophrenic people and put it in mice and changed their body for a period of time. So it's like they disproved their own thing, because now it did die off eventually, but it was there and present and part of their bodies for a while. So 2 thank yous now. Aussie, thank you so much, brother. Y'all are awesome, doing a great job. Much love and light, everybody. And Titan, thank you as well, brother. And he said thank you for the evening of woo to all 4 of us. So thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, fellas.
We really appreciate it. So, I don't believe that for a minute, that you can't change that.
Right.
It's like, except if it was your pills, then we probably could, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's how that works. There's no shareholders on the vegetable end. So
You probably look at our diet now, look at the environment. They say that we only use 10% of our brain capacity. I think maybe if we go back in time, other civilizations that have been lost, maybe they had access to more of their brain power. And maybe it was because, like you said, Don, they were more in harmony. They were in unison with the planet around them. It was all natural, as opposed to artificial environment, artificial food, artificial everything.
Yeah, absolutely. When we're bombarded with chemicals, wavelengths, frequencies, and lights, and the wrong lights, and we're beating ourselves to hell pretty quickly. And I guess the human body must be really resilient, because I guess we're still plugging away. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be moving to our first break here in about 30 seconds. One break down, gentlemen. Can you believe how quickly this goes?
Oh, it's flying by, Brent. Flying by.
I know it's plenty late for you right now, Kev. What time is it there?
Well, I tell you what, I was going to give it a shout out a moment ago. It was 322 over here in the UK.
Ooh.
Obviously a good skull and bones number there for your secret society lovers out there. But
Awesome.
It'll be 5 a.m. when we get finished.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And do you sleep?
But like I've said to many people before, I basically live on East Coast time. So it's really midnight for me.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where the bell is, but I know we must have hit it by now. So don't go away, because more of the portal will be coming in just a moment together with the Freaky Friday. So lots coming up. Don't go away. That's an order.
Discover the extraordinary power of intuitive healing with pain transmutation, a method of holistic healing for the human soul, body, mind, and emotions. If you are looking for answers and a deep understanding of how to help yourself and the people around you to live a happier, healthier life, this is the right place for you. Learn how to read your soul's history in the Akashic Records. Remove negative energy attachments from your astral body, and start the process of inner and outer pain transmutation. Join Pain Transmutation Community to get started on the path of intuitive healing. Change your energetic state. Manifest new and exciting experiences. Re-energize your life. And build inspiring connections with others in our community.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. We It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing fluoride, odor, iron, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you. Or well solutions, satisfaction guarantee. For more information, 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Paranormal Portal.
Rookie.
I know. It's never going to get better tonight. It's been a long day. Feel for me. We are back with Kev Baker and Scotty Lopez of Freaky Friday and Kev Baker Show, respectively. And we are going through the night. They are doing great. Hour number 4 for them. They're having no trouble with it at all. So they are made of a tougher metal than I. But I'm doing good. I mean, it's earlier in the night for us. Of course, we're on the West Coast time. But Kev's cooking the early morning hours, but he's still going like a champ. So we have a lot more woo to get through here today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to find my tab so I can tell you what that woo is. Jesus. It had to do with Loch Ness Monster, too, of all things. And that I was kind of excited about that because, of course, that hits very close to home for our very own Kev Baker, who's there. But, Kev, the recent genetic study that was done
Don't you dare tell me it's an eel. Don't even go there.
It's a lamprey.
Okay, I just wanted your official opinion on that because
No, I'm having a laugh. But I've told the people that listen to KBS before, anyone up in and around Loch Ness is not going to be surprised when you find eel DNA in there.
sure.
Whenever you go fishing as a young guy, people that do it when they're older as well, it's one of the things you catch. We've got the Caledonian Canal at the end where I was brought up in Fort Augustus, and if you fished off the loch there, it was eels. That was all you were getting. And then you go down to the loch, you get salmon, trout, all the rest of it. But I find it ridiculous that a credentialed scientist has gone to Loch Ness. Yes, he's found DNA that belongs to an eel, but how you can actually make the leap and the big jump from that to being, well, that proves that Nessie's an eel then.
Oh.
No, it just proves that there's eel DNA in there, you know?
So you're saying it's not conclusive?
I wouldn't say, it's like, you know, if they'd found salmon DNA, would they have said it was a giant salmon, you know?
Or a snail or something else stupid. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's all kinds
It's weird. It's really weird. The whole Loch Ness monster thing, I've definitely got a different take on it, maybe, because there's that many different competing eyewitness reports.
Sure.
I've had my mum, my stepdad. I mean, I lived there for 18 years, and we used to bomb about the loch day in, day out in the summer and the holidays. Me personally, never seen a thing. But the stories that you hear, they all differ.
Yeah.
Some it's got a long neck, some it's got a hump. Other ones it's a very almost like a whale type flat-backed creature.
Oh.
Then you've got other stories of things coming down off the hillside looking like a horse and going into the loch.
Mhm.
And then you find out in Scotland we've got the thing called the Kelpie. And this is a shape-shifting animal that is associated with Scottish lakes and lochs.
Oh.
So a shapeshifter, that would account for the various different types of
Description.
creature that's seen, yeah. And maybe one little known fact about Loch Ness, and I only found this out maybe about a year or so ago. And what's doubly interesting is nobody's ever heard of this up my way. My mum, the people she's spoken to, it was all news to them. But back in the 70s, 1976, MIT, they sent somebody called Marty Klein over to Loch Ness. And now he's quite significant because he actually invented side sonar.
Oh.
He was one of the guys that first located the wreck of the Titanic. And he was sent to the loch to survey it. A lot of money went into it. MIT, like I say. But the interesting thing in his find wasn't the actual evidence of perhaps a monster. It was at the other end of the loch where I come from. You got Fort Augustus on the south end and then a little village called Doors on the Inverness end.
Mm-hmm.
And about 70 foot down depth of water, what they found was concentric stone circles in Loch Ness. And they actually call it Kleinhenge. But again, what I find even more interesting about it is there's I haven't come across any locals who know about that.
Wow.
Yeah, and you'd think that would have been a huge talking point at the time. I mean, I lived through a couple of the investigations that were done. It's all people would talk about. You know, it's only a small village. Everyone knows everyone.
Mm-hmm.
People on the investigations, they go to the same pubs as all the locals. So it baffles me how this is a thing and you can go back, you can find out all about it, but little people in the area know that there's stone circles in Loch Ness.
Wow.
That's wild. So
Kleinhenge, you can actually go and Google it. There's like images of the actual the sonar return, and it looks like, for lack of a better term, like some kind of mini Stonehenge.
Wow.
But just up from Loch Ness, you've got Clava Cairns, and that's a Pictish site that's in Outlander, the TV show. It's like a Stargate, a paranormal portal, if you may. So there was the Picts who were very, very skilled in stonework.
Oh.
And there's even a carving that appears to show some snake-like serpent, Scotty, isn't there? And then there's a certain way you look at it, there's a line drawn across it. And I suggested, well, what if that line is the horizon, the depth of the water, the surface?
Right.
Because when you look at that same snake again, it's got a long neck and a hump coming off the back, and nobody can interpret what that stone actually means. So
Wow.
it's a weird one.
It is.
They're definitely depicting something. You know, I always, when we talk about these older civilizations or these groups that are carving stuff into stone and all of that, I mean, they weren't just doing that because they were bored.
Yeah.
You know, they had better things to do than to just, you know, they were carving these things into stone because it was something extremely important that they wanted to document and to put on record for future generations to see. And yeah, like Kev said, this Pictish stone, it was portraying some kind of a serpentine creature of some sort. And yeah, I mean, if you look at it from that perspective, where that line drawn through it was the surface of the water, then it definitely has that Nessie-like appearance where it has a long neck and a hump or something like that.
Right.
And yeah, and I think the whole Nessie thing, you know, I think it's, you know, it's not just confined to Loch Ness. It's a global sort of phenomenon as well. I mean, because we have our sightings here in the U.S. I mean, you have Champ, right, in Lake Champlain.
Yeah.
And we also covered, I believe it was
Ogopogo.
a Nessie.
Yep.
A Nessie-like creature that was in. Let me look real quick. I have this up. In
Also
Utah.
got the crazy bunyip in Australia that we've talked about as well, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the bunyip in Australia. Yeah, Bear Lake, Utah. There's
one there.
It's a Nessie-like creature as well. I mean, so it seems to be this sort of this cryptid that is around, you know, a global phenomenon, you know, just like the Bigfoot or the Sasquatch, how it's spotted all over the world. And, you know, what is it? Well, we have yet to figure that out. But
so a couple questions, Kev. When was the last time that site of that henge would have been above water? Like before the Ice Age?
Well, there's also an island at the Fort Augustus end of Loch Ness. Now, I was just I've done a presentation at the Fringe Fest online about Loch Ness.
Oh, cool.
And Cherry Island, it's the only man-made island in the loch, but they say that in the 15th or the 1500s, there was once a castle stood on that island. Now, the reason I bring that up is because now you couldn't swing a cat on the island. There's maybe 6 or 7 trees, a little bit of land above the surface. So in the 1500s, it must have been significantly lower because there was no Caledonian Canal there. There was enough room to build a settlement, a castle, like I say, on Cherry Island. And if that's the case, then that would drop the level significantly.
Sure.
So if you're going back to the time of the Picts, then it's very feasible that was on the bank of Loch Ness at one point.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty intense. I was thinking you were going to say prior to the Ice Age or something, and then I would be like, wow.
I was shocked as well. I was shocked, Brent, when I found out that there was actually some kind of building, a castle, they called it, on Cherry Island. Because I'm like you, I thought maybe you'd have to go back like eons to go to, you know, a different level in the loch, but no. And the Picts, they were around in the 6th to the 9th AD. They lasted until the Viking raiders came over. I think you'd probably find that very similar, actually, some of the artwork and things, the Celtic kind of crosses. And I don't know, I don't think, maybe the Picts and the Vikings, I don't know if they ever went to war. They probably got on with one another, you know?
Yeah, maybe it just melded into a new civilization together, yeah. So
probably traded between them, because when you think about it, the location, you're talking about the North Sea, you know, it's just over the water.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what about those the giant river otters or the giant otters that are rumored to be up there too?
Oh, definitely. I would imagine some of the sightings could be attributed to that.
Okay.
They sometimes actually come up into the River Oich, so you get a good idea for the size that some of these otters can be.
Yeah.
But again, does that account for everything?
Sure.
And you can't talk about Loch Ness without talking about the whole area.
Yeah.
It's a vibe. There's hauntings. There's still people that are very active in the black magic. It's a real weird place. I kind of say to people, I didn't appreciate it at the time. But when I go home now and I get out of the electromagnetic smog of the city and you're up there, because you've got hills on either side, it's very, very isolated, and it does something weird. It feels different. Me and Scott talk about the mist, the staticky feeling.
Oh yeah, we were talking about that last hour or last show.
It's almost as if that's the default, but that's like the permanent kind of setting for the Highlands. It's weird.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty intense. Now, the reason that I brought up Nessie, of course, is I found my article finally. I did manage to crawl through my...
There's been a couple of sonar sightings in the past few months that have been really exciting. They've had experts looking at that.
Oh, cool.
And it excites me because the guy who reported it, I know him from when I was in school. He was a couple of years ahead of me. He's one of the most introvert, quiet, not seeking kind of any limelight people in the world. And he's been out on the loch his whole life. His family, they own one of the boats that goes out there.
Oh.
And you would think, so somebody that owns a boat, maybe he's just doing it for publicity. If that was the case, him and his father would have been in the papers long before now. They've been doing that out in the loch for decades. And this is the first time that Ronald Mackenzie has been confident with something that they've caught on sonar to say, look, this is weird.
Right.
And then experts have even said that is absolutely massive.
Wow.
And then it happened again just the other week in 600 feet of water.
Jeez.
So they're talking about doing a new survey with new technology now because sonar's getting better.
Yeah, that's what I understand. I think I read the report from the son of that, because when you said your friend, I was like, well, does he have a dad that also does this? Because I remember reading the article where the dad was like, I've been out here for years. He just does it for 2 seasons and catches one.
That's the thing, Brent. I mean, that's maybe the part of the story that doesn't come across when you read it, if you're not from up there. These people, they don't... I mean, locals tend to keep this stuff to themselves anyway, because other locals are going to laugh. They'll be nudging each other in the pub, things like that. They're like, there's that loon ball. You see the monster again. You're going to get ridiculed, even though people don't necessarily disbelieve it.
Sure.
But because everyone knows everyone, you get a bit of a stigma attached. And like I say, that family, they've had a vested interest. I mean, they've got like a business on the loch. So you would think if anyone's going to like maybe tell a tall tale or a tall story, it would be them numerous times, but it's never happened before.
Wow.
And this sonar return is something, I showed it to you, Scott, didn't it? It's massive. It's absolutely massive. I think it's 30 to 60 feet long.
Jeez.
I don't know what it is. It's a big fish if it's a fish, put it that way.
Big eel. It's a big eel.
Oh, God.
Don't you start me on those eels.
Mr. Limpet.
Yeah. So this is the article says, skeptic believes he photographed the Loch Ness monster in another new sighting. And this is September 11th of 2020 is when, and this is coming from mysteriousuniverse.org. It says a Nessie skeptic was taking a long walk between Fort Augustus and Invermoriston. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, Fort Augustus is where I was born, in Invermoriston. This is the hot spot for seeing it, man.
Oh, okay, cool. When he witnessed something very unusual in the water. The photos, which were taken last Tuesday, September 1st, while the man was on the Great Glenway Trail, appeared to show a long, thin, dark, shadowy object near the surface of the water that was moving against the waves. The Inverness man, who wanted to remain anonymous, claimed that he has been a serious Nessie skeptic for his entire life, although he admitted that he was extremely surprised and confused as to what he actually witnessed. I was just enjoying the wonderful views, mind elsewhere on a lovely, clear, breezy day, when I stopped dead in my tracks, he explained, adding, from where I stood at a clear vantage point in the hills, there was a very defined dark shape beneath the water, It might have been the height I was that gave me such a good view, because those on boats some distance away didn't seem to react or even notice. And he says he went on to describe the object that they saw. Whatever was moving beneath the surface seemed pretty large and was moving directly across the line of waves at right angles, rather than with it. It was long with two distinct fin-like shapes either side of it. I stood and watched for a good 5 minutes before it just seemed to disappear into the depths. While he was watching it, he grabbed his mobile phone and snapped some pictures of what he saw. He continued on by stating that he'd never seen anything in the water before, and that would convince him that Loch Ness Monster really lived there. But after what I saw last week, I really don't know, he admitted. I can't think of any reasonable explanation for it other than something I really don't want to publicly admit to. The pictures that he took of the strange figure in the water can be seen here. Let me see. I'm going to open that link and see what we get.
That's a very common stance taken by the locals.
Right.
They see something, but they don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want the papers coming. They don't want publicity for it, you know?
Oh, yeah, here, I'm going to put it on your guys' faces. The paper is the Inverness Courier.
Yeah.
And there is one of two photos right there. I don't know where the number 2 is, but yeah, you can see it does look like it's going against the waves. It'll probably take a few seconds for you guys to see it, but...
Yeah, I see that.
Okay.
You know, I've got a clip here, Brent, I can play.
Oh, cool.
It's from my mum, actually, the sighting that she had with my stepdad.
Oh, wonderful.
And the reason I bring it up now is because it's a similar location, and it's for me, it's a similar sighting.
Okay.
Hang on, I'll play this now. Here we go. Let me know if you can hear it, okay?
Yes, I've always believed that there was something
You hear that, yeah?
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
in the water. Never ever thought I'd have the privilege to actually witness something. Myself and my husband were travelling home from Inverness one day. It was a bright, ordinary, dry day heading back home from Inverness towards Fort Augustus, on the far side of Aughert Castle, on the Fort Augustus side of Aughert Castle. I just happened to look down, and we were quite high up, and I just happened to look down, and it caught both of our eyes. We saw something in the water, and it was very, very close. It wasn't away out in the middle of the loch. This was really, really close. It looked like a massive half dome above the water, and it was like an elephant's hide look to it.
Rough kind of skin.
Rough kind of skin, a greyish, brownish colour. It's about the size of the back of a lorry.
Any neck?
No neck. No neck. It was like just the back of it. It was like, it was just a massive, massive thing down below in the water. About the size of our kitchen, if that can give you any kind of... Our kitchen's about...
Not a fish then? Not an otter?
No. About 20 feet by 20 feet, let's say.
And what's quite interesting about this is you've had further confirmation from one of the priests from the St. Benedictine Abbey in the village.
Yeah.
And this guy hasn't got a book to sell. He's got nothing to gain here. What did he tell you about your sighting?
Well, to finish off the story about, what we'd seen, just as soon as it was there, it was gone. And the wake, it went straight down, and the wake that it left behind it was incredible. The water was awash, it was one hell of a swell. Anyway, we didn't want to go to the papers or report it because, guys, you get laughed at.
They play the X-Files music. I've been there, we know that.
You get laughed at. We didn't want to be ridiculed. We're the experts. We know what we saw. They weren't there. We saw it. We saw whatever was in Loch Ness. Now, my husband was working, doing some work painting for the local Benedictine Abbey in Fort Augustus, and happened to be telling some of his colleagues about what we had seen a few days later. One of the monks came over to my husband, and he said, "Do you know something, Frank?" He says, "I've been listening to what you've been saying." He says, "I saw the very same thing." You've described exactly what I saw
Oh.
40 years ago. He says, stick to your story, son. You know you saw it. And that was it. He had seen the same thing. That guy wasn't selling a story for paper. He was a religious monk of a very high order of monks, Benedictine monks. We can't all be wrong. And like I say, the best expert in anything is the person that actually saw it. And we did see it. We really did see whatever that is.
And I remember when they got home from that journey, and that's what sealed the deal for me. You know, you can tell people have like seen something or they've been frightened, or you just know there's something off. That's exactly how they were when they got in. And I don't know, stories like that are so common with locals, but you don't get to see them in the media because, like she said there, you get laughed at, guys, you know?
No, that's awesome. And how far away was she from it?
Well, it was actually quite close to the side.
Yeah.
Parts of the loch, they just dropped straight down.
Oh, okay.
And she said it must have been a really deep bit because of the way it just went right down, and then, like that picture you showed,
Yeah.
just a wake then on the water, like something had been there and something disturbing it, but gone.
That's incredible. Wow. And what a cool thing, though. I mean, this was their first sighting of it, and they've been there their whole lives.
Yeah, the only thing they've ever seen. I mean,
Wow.
Frank, he doesn't come from Fort Augustus. He's from closer to Glasgow. He thought it was a load of nonsense. He thought it was just like a tourist thing, a selling point. Bloody monsters in the water. What are you talking about? But that changed his opinion. But he also was very skeptical about the paranormal as well. A couple of years in Fort Augustus. He wasn't so skeptical after that. Yeah, when you live in it, you get an appreciation for it, you know?
Yeah, there's a reason Crowley decided that was the place, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty powerful. I mean, and you know, the funny thing is, Scotty, you're saying that this is a global phenomenon. You're right. I grew up on the Mississippi River of all places. And the part that I grew up on was called Lake Pepin. And
Pepe.
Pepe, yep. Pepe was apparently a local Native American legend, and people had sworn they'd seen something huge in the water. Now, I grew up swimming in that thing. I never was told this. I never found this out till I was an adult. But, you know, I guess every body of water right out here, we live in Sandpoint, Idaho. There's a big, huge spring-fed lake or mountain water-fed lake, and it's called Pend Oreille. And they have the Pend Oreille paddler out here allegedly too. So, you know, that is curious, really, really curious how it is such a dispersed and widespread phenomenon. I think that's absolutely amazing. But
could it be that water is a natural portal?
You know, good point. Good point. Are they entirely physical, or are they kind of spiritual, or are they something in between? Yeah, great point. But we are about to go to our hour break. Only 1 hour to go, guys. Wow.
It's been phenomenal.
It's always phenomenal. You know, we should just do a show together, guys. Come on. New show. Call it the Freaky Portal or something. We'll figure it out.
That sounds like something that really you don't want to be Googling that.
Yeah, you don't.
No.
You're right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Don't go away for more of Kev Baker, Scotty, Lopez, and Don and I for the Paranormal Portal.
Play their games. Everybody loves to place their bets. They don't understand the price I paid. They don't care to comprehend. Trace their lines upon my body, dripping scars across my heart.
Carol Ann is not like those she's with. They're attracted to the one thing about her that is different from themselves. Her life force. It is very strong. It gives off its own illumination. It is a light that implies life and memory of love and home and earthly pleasures. Something they desperately desire, but can't have anymore. Right now, she's the closest thing to that.
Poltergeist are usually associated with an individual. Hauntings seem to be connected with an area. A house, usually.
Poltergeist disturbances are of fairly short duration, perhaps a couple of months. Hauntings can go on for years.
Just like that intro, ladies and gentlemen. Just like that intro. Welcome back. Hour number 2 is now begun. It's now begun. And we're hoping you are enjoying yourself. Thank you to everybody who's here watching with us, keeping us company and helping us through the Paranormal Portal. We'd like to pretend that we're in control, but we're just along for the ride, just like you guys. I don't know if the portal can be controlled, but thank you, everybody. And Don, you having fun?
I am having so much fun. It's freaking incredible.
Incredible. You heard it here first, folks. And, of course, if you're not aware, we are doing our team up, our roundtable with Freaky Friday in order to celebrate Friday the 13th. There's only 2 of them this year. How many is there usually, guys? Anybody know?
We're down to 2 now. Yeah, everyone else hates us now, Scott, don't they? We've made them sick of us. No, Joe, he's ever since that thing descended on the world, he's been super busy with work.
Oh, sure.
We sometimes have Kevin Nacy joining us. We sometimes have Spooky Andy. And also somebody I think would make a perfect fit for your show, Jason, a.k.a. First Paranormal from here on YouTube.
Oh, yeah,
he does a lot of investigations, and recently he's taken up the urban exploration, going to these underground kind of locations, old forts, old castles. Really, really good stuff. And I tell you what, he has had a few brushes with the woo, for sure.
You know, I feel bad because I've always wanted to have him on, but I just have just I just get overwhelmed and forget where the hell I am. But yeah, I've meant to have him on because I'd love to hear his stories. So I'm gonna have to reach out to him again. But yeah,
he talks a lot about the little people as well, doesn't he, Scott? The little people of Cornwall and Devon.
Oh, the stories of what, like dwarves and pixies or and fairies and all kinds of things like that, and that's a whole interesting topic all in itself. And then when you look deeper into it, because on face value you're like, what, dwarves, little people, that's weird, like hobbits, right? You think of Lord of the Rings or something. Right. But then you start looking deeper into it and you look at like some of these tunnels that have been uncovered, and the size of these tunnels, like a man has to crawl on their hands and knees or crouch down to walk through them, but yet looks like they were engineered and built. It's like, well, what are the size of these beings that had to be crawling through these tunnels? You know, it's like, so it definitely it's definitely a interesting topic all in itself.
It is, that
whole thing of.
But you know, here's the thing, and this is true for many phenomena, as we've discussed with the river monsters, as we discussed on the Freaky Friday about the Bigfoot and the Dogmen and stuff like that. But all of these global phenomena, they all have groundings in there's got to be some truth to that. I mean, of course, the Homo florensis that was discovered in Indonesia, the island of Flores, the cave where they found all of the skeletons of these. I mean, they look like they were the size of children, but they have all of the adult molars and stuff that you would expect for an adult, and including adult bone structures rather than little childlike bone structures. And so, I mean, it's well established now that these were an actual creature or being that lived on the planet. Now, the interesting thing is that the legends of the Indonesian people on that area, they have the legend, the verbal legend of what had happened, and what I, as I understand it, they were missing children. These little hobbit people were abducting children and eating them. And so the villagers had enough, and they kind of did what's happened in the Lovelock Cave, where they, with the Native Americans trapping the giants in there. And that's what the Indonesians had apparently done, and trapped the little hobbit people in that cave, and then, burned them out. So
yeah, we had another guy, Max from Germany, didn't we, Scott?
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking to us about like the kind of Nordic, the Germanic lore, the legends that center around these little people. Really fascinating, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's what really got me kind of on board with the whole thing, because before that, even I was kind of like, I mean, it seemed a little too out there for me, which I think it does for a lot of people. But
sure.
But then I had to sit back and think, okay, well, I believe that there were giants, so why is it so hard for me to believe that there were little people?
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, why put more into one than the other? So, but when Max brought that information to the table and showed those tunnels and all of that stuff and those, all of that, I was like, oh, okay. And then the information that Jason from First Paranormal brought to the table as well, with the Tommy knockers and all of that stuff. And there's definitely a lot of evidence to point to the fact that they were like multiple different hominid species that all kind of coexisted or lived at the same time. And I don't want to say coexist, because from a lot of these accounts, especially some of these Native American accounts, remember Jason brought to the table, I forgot what they were called, but they literally
like warrior dwarfs. They had like weapons and stuff, didn't they?
Yeah, they were like a very savage, warlike group, and the native tribes actually came together and essentially went to war with them.
Wow.
And eradicated them, or at least mostly eradicated. Then I'm sure there's probably, there might still be remnants of them that are, hidden away somewhere or have retreated, into the forests or the mountains or something like that. But, like you were saying, Brent, I mean, the native legends of this group, they were saying the same thing, that these things were running around abducting, children and just doing really bad stuff. And they were a very savage group. And so they had to try and eradicate them. So, all of this stuff of it, when you hear multiple cultures and multiple civilizations telling essentially the same sort of stories, that they have different names for whatever they're describing, but at its core, there's something, they're describing the same thing, then there's got to be something to that, especially from cultures that are supposedly that had never had contact with each other or supposed to be isolated from each other, but they're talking about the same thing.
Right.
Then there's got to be something to that.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too, because I mean, it's the same for the Bigfoots, and with their distribution, they're everywhere. And you're right. These sources are all disparate and geographically displaced from each other, but it's so odd that they would all have those same kind of legends, if there wasn't some basis for truth, or it wasn't something they were actually seeing. So I think that's pretty powerful stuff. What do you think, Don?
I'm sorry, I zipped out for a minute.
Oh, no worries.
I haven't been following, but and you're right. You're right, Scotty. If you believe in giants, which I do too, because we found it's been reported by Jim Vieira and all of these other people, that they're giants. Where they found these giant skulls, these giant femurs. There are people who tell that pass down verbal lore about them. Why can't there be, like you said, why can't there be little people? And it's incredible. Of the stories, the Cherokee have their little people, the Megawesi. And then, also the Cherokee and the Hopi also have the ant people. So, there's so many different versions and different hominids that we don't get to see. And they're just like Bigfoot. They're smarter than us, and they just want us to be left alone, is my opinion.
Yeah. Yep.
You mentioned that insectoid thing there. I love kind of getting into that, thinking about that. You hear people talking about reptilians when it comes to the aliens, but the insectoids, you sometimes hear them coming up in conversation. And I know, Scott, you're a big kind of proponent of, can we call it cavernous Earth theory?
Yes.
Literally, guys, there could be other species that we have no idea about living beneath our feet. Scott, I'll let you kind of take it from there.
Yeah, so there's the hollow Earth theory, and I don't know if I go with the total hollow Earth sort of aspect of it, but I definitely believe that I just call it the cavernous Earth theory, where there's like these pockets under the Earth's crust that are like kind of their own isolated sort of ecosystems, right?
Yep.
And there could be tunnels and passageways that eventually lead down to these areas, and then it opens up into a massive sort of just its own. Yeah. It has its own sort of environment, and it could have species living down there that we have no idea. I guess it kind of is kind of like was it travel to the I forgot the name, journey to the center of the earth, that
yes.
kind of thing.
Yes.
Yep. But I just think it's like these pockets that are just kind of interspersed underneath the crust. And I think that's where like these insectoids could come from, or any of these other kind of strange creatures, or even these hominid creatures could live. And it makes sense, because if you're living in an underground sort of area, you would probably evolve in a much smaller stature, right? Sure. To traverse that area. I mean, evolution would probably dictate that. Yeah. As far as, so, I mean, I think that there's something to that. And we see a lot of it seems like they tend to retreat into mountains and go into caves, right? Whenever you see reports of these kind of things. Right. I think of like the Anukin in Alaska. We've talked about this before, Kev. It's these tiny hominid creatures, I guess, that are spotted in Alaska, that have been told, they've been reported all the way from the 1800s, and even the natives there speak of them. I mean, that's where the name comes from. It's a native name, the Anukin. But they supposedly emerge from the side of mountains, in Alaska, these caves and stuff. And there's also a strange kind of paranormal aspect to them as well, where people have reported like portals and stuff in the side of mountains, with these things. So sure. I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a lot more opened up. I'm just a lot more opened up to the idea of these smaller hominids running around.
And I think you hit on that exactly, just like Don was telling you. It's like, if you believe there are intangible people walking around and haunting us, if you believe there are spaceship traveling throughout the cosmos and visiting us, if you believe there are 10 feet tall hairy hominids in the forest how do you stop believing anything beyond that? Or, how do you just pick one of those and just believe that, but not even entertain the others? And I think that there's a whole host of things, I don't think we've even come close to understanding all of the life that is here and all of the facets that means. I think that, we have a pretty concrete idea about, well, this is something alive and this isn't. But I think that we're also surrounded by types of life that, for instance, the other entities that we experience that aren't necessarily, they had never been human, but they exist in that spiritual type of appearance. They seem to be intangible. They seem to be, energetic and come and go as they want, but they weren't necessarily people, but they were something else. And so, there's just so much more for us to understand. And then when you look at all of the phenomena that includes, it's like we stand to learn so much by looking into this stuff. That's the part that's the most frustrating, is that we're not looking into this stuff. Of course, there are enthusiasts like us and others that are out there trying to understand these phenomena, like Bigfoot, for instance. It will be, some armchair, or some person that's hobbying, going out on weekends, that's going to probably bring back the evidence to establish this species. It's not going to be because of some university doing an intensive field study. And, I think that's kind of cool, but, at the same time, I don't know. What do you guys think of that?
And I think it also, in a way, I think it's our arrogance as a species to think that we're the only ones and that we're the smartest, and that I think that closes us off and makes us think that there's nothing else out there that could be on par with us or even rival us as far as intelligence, or do the same things or do similar stuff that we do, so we tend to just brush it off as, well, those are just myths, those are just legends, those are just stories, I think we have to chalk a lot of that up to just kind of our arrogance as a species, thinking that we're at the top of the food chain, when we're really not.
There's life forms that we still haven't identified in our deepest oceans. And you look at the pressures under the ocean, on the ocean floor, the harsh conditions, life can thrive there, it turns out. Mm-hmm. So when we go into Cavernous Earth, I think that I really do. I think it's very feasible that there could be species of things. And, down there, depending on the size of the cavern and the system, maybe they do become giant insectoids. I don't know. Like Scott says, I think sometimes we're so arrogant. We think we know everything, but in reality, we're only just starting to remember some of the stuff that we've forgotten over the ages,
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
We've had our friend Brooks Agnew on the show several times, and one of the shows that we had him on, we were talking about Hollow Earth, and he presented the information that they did a sonar reading at the bottom of the ocean somewhere. I can't remember where it was. Maybe it was in the Atlantic, but they heard what was returned was what sounded like waves lapping on the shore, and under the ocean, under the crust of the floor bed of the ocean, it was getting returns of waves lapping on the sand.
Sure, yeah.
And so, this gives credence to the idea that there is some kind of cavernous earth, or pockets of life, possibly life, inside what we know as the earth. As a matter of fact, he mentioned that at one point there was 1,500 new species of manta and stingray that just came out of nowhere. Maybe they came through one of the cracks that were opened up by volcanic, or tectonics, whatever you want to say. A gap opened up, and this new set of stingrays and manta came through, and now we have 1,500 new species of these. So I am on board with the idea of hollow earth, cavernous earth, whatever you want to call it. I like cavernous earth. That makes sense. And put it in different pockets instead of saying the center of the earth is hollow and there's a sun in the middle of that, and everybody walks on the outside crust. But if you think about how and as Brooks put it to us, how gravity works, it kind of makes sense that it's possible. And but I'm all for the idea that things are coming through, possibly from pockets of civilization that have been covered up, separated, segregated from what we know as the earth, and things are coming through in a natural way.
I think he explained that the introduction of those new stingrays was probably from when that ice sheet broke off.
Right.
Yep, but the one that was about the size of Maine.
Right.
Apparently it opened some passage that had otherwise been inaccessible, that could very well lead to the inner earth. So I don't know. Pretty
You
cool.
think about Lake Vostok as well, Brent, down there.
Yeah.
That had been sealed off for millennia. I think there's already highly intelligent alien life in the ocean.
Yes.
I present to you the octopus.
Yes.
I'm telling you that in itself's like an alien. And then look how many UFO sightings we get, or USO.
Yeah.
Craft going in and out of the water.
Yes. Yeah.
There's so much physical stuff beneath the surface of the ocean that we just don't know about before we even go looking out into space.
Right.
Exactly. And how do we know that a lot of these UFO sightings aren't some kind of high technology that is actually emerging from the earth as opposed to coming in from outside of our planet, right?
Interterrestrial. Yeah.
Yeah, interterrestrial civilizations sending probably scouting probes or something out to the surface to see what's going on with us crazy humans up here on the surface, and then they're like, oh, wow, they're really they're kind of crazy up there. Let's head back, head back down and file our report or whatever. But you see a lot of look at all of the UFO reports where it seems like these things are coming out of the side of mountains and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So this would suggest that maybe they're, emerging from the entrance of a cave or some area that is connected to this, this cavernous earth and these civilizations that may exist below us.
Right.
So.
Sure. And then there's
the rock thing as well. I mean, there was a video out recently. It really got me thinking. But I mean, you look at the Bible, and in there you've got rocks that can talk. You've got people walking into rocks, people moving rocks. There's something almost magical.
Yep.
And a technology, if I dare say it, to something that looks like an inanimate object. It's just a rock.
Wow.
But then you see what the ancients were able to do with stone, how they could manipulate it.
Right.
I don't know. There's something there. And of course, the Native Americans, they talk about mountains being natural stargates.
Yeah.
You had the bad guys again in World War II going to the Himalayas, trying to get some of that Tibetan and Hindu type secret knowledge.
Right.
A story I heard from there, I don't know if it's true, coast to coast, those ones. But it was they'd located a doorway carved into one of the mountains over that part of the world, and the story went that they basically hacked that out. They blew it out, the side, and took that entire doorway and took it wherever. Now I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that the bad guys in World War II, they definitely seem to know more of the woo that we're just starting to uncover today. And you can even go to what Scott was saying about the cavernous earth, because Antarctica, you've got confirmed Nazi U-boat bases there. Yeah. What were they doing there, though? And that's okay having a base there, but why? What were they doing at the time? It wasn't a strategic kind of crossing point for anything to do with the Allies.
No.
So why the big 17-berth massive operation? What were they doing there? And then Admiral Byrd said, what? Someday very soon we're going to have to worry about pole-to-pole travel, and we're going to have to defend against that.
Wow.
I don't know. It all makes for good woo.
It does, absolutely. And we are just about a minute away from our last break.
Wow.
Already, folks. But when we come back, I got an article about the moon that we're going to discuss, gentlemen.
Oh gosh.
So
Nice.
we love some moon woo too. So
I want to say real quick though, I got to jump out in about 15 minutes because I got to get home. I got to get back to my studio because Paley's show, and I
Yes.
don't know what the snow looks like out there. Snow.
That's true.
No.
Snow.
Snow.
I don't know. I don't snow either.
Oh gosh. Oh my.
All right, so we'll all snow together. But we are going to be right back, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, after our show, do stick around on TFR, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live because Paisley Wild's coming up next with the Spaces Between. And that's always a good show. She's a wonderful friend, and definitely support her if you can. And then after that, World Bigfoot Radio. So lots more yet to come on this amazing night of woo. Here
Lots more Yeti to come.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Nice job. I didn't know that one. All right, we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, last half hour of the show tonight. This is the Paranormal Portal in our epic Friday the 13th celebration with the boys from Freaky Friday. Mr. Kev Baker and Scotty Lopez are here with us, and Don had to go. He's just wanted to get ahead of any weather issues on his way back to his home, so it's just me. But I still got the Freaky Friday guys here, so I'm in good company. How you guys doing so far?
Oh, this has been absolutely fantastic, man. The time has just I don't know. I think we've entered one of those time slip things, these portals or something, because it just seems like it was almost like the last time we did this, right?
Yeah.
You know, you think in the beginning, oh man, 5 hours. That's a lot. You know, but man, it just blows by so quick. You know, time flies whenever you're having fun and you're getting into some deep conversation and covering all kinds of just these woo topics. Just, man, it's good stuff, man.
You blink and you might miss it. That's all I'm saying.
I'll tell you, I hope the audience are making the most of this. It's going to be August before the next Friday the 13th. So that's a long way away. Yeah.
We might have to find another festive occasion to celebrate before then. But
yeah, I'm sure there'll be some kind of, I don't know, many worlds Independence Day or something like that. We'll make one up.
We'll create one. If not, we'll make one, ladies and gentlemen. But it is obviously an amazing journey for me. These two gentlemen, of course, are good friends of mine, as well as fellow hosts of TFR Live.com. So, and I've been following them for years, and it's a tough act to follow, but it's always a great pleasure because they always set the stage and get it all warmed up for me like a good opening act. And I'm not much of a closer, but I do my best. But we got more weirdness going on here. Lots more to discuss. You know, there's a lot of controversies about the moon, gentlemen. You're aware of those, I'm sure, right? Like,
yes.
Perhaps the moon is even millions of years older than our Earth. Might be hollow. It rings like a bell when struck. It's oversized natural satellite. It doesn't follow the geometry of any other known planet with a moon. Ours is way too big. It has a weird orbit, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. But I found another bit of inquiry that you might not have heard of, and I'd never heard of it before I just found it. So, and this is an article from unexplained-mysteries.com. Is there a piece of our moon behind Mars?
Yeah.
All right.
Ooh, okay. Interesting.
All right. So let's see what it has to say. And it says, scientists have discovered that an asteroid trailing behind Mars could actually be a fragment of the moon. The space rock, which is known by the catchy name of, get this one, you know, they've stayed up late thinking of this, 1014291998VF31. Some naming convention.
Rolls off the tongue,
it
that
does.
one, doesn't it?
It's like poetry, I swear.
Yep.
Is one of a number of Trojan asteroids in our solar system. I don't know why they call them that, but objects which share the same orbital path as one of the planets. What makes this particular example so interesting is the fact that its composition seems to hint that it may be, in fact, a piece of the Earth's moon, which must have been chipped off during a collision at some point in the distant past before ending up trailing the orbit of Mars. Researchers at the Armagh Observatory and Planetarium, AOP, in Northern Ireland used the European Southern Observatory's very large telescope in Chile to examine how sunlight reflects off the asteroid's surface, and then compared the data to that of other bodies in the solar system. Well, they were surprised to find that the moon was the closest match. According to study co-author Galen Borisov, the data was a dead ringer for parts of the moon where there is exposed bedrock, such as crater interiors and mountains. While it isn't a dead certainty that the asteroid is a piece of the moon, it's certainly an intriguing find and could represent further indication of the solar system's violent past. Who knows? There could even be other, perhaps bigger chunks of the moon out there still to find.
I've always felt there's something too perfect about the moon. You look at the eclipse, and for a random coming together of dust and rock that just kind of, with centrifugal forces and gravity, made this perfect sphere that just so happens it's just far enough away and just the right size to give us that perfect eclipse.
Yes.
There's something too perfect for me, Scotty. What do you want to add to this?
No, I agree. I was just about to talk about the exact same thing. Like the eclipse, like of all of the random probabilities, right, and all of the potential sizes of moons that we could have, the moon is at the exact perfect distance and the exact perfect size to perfectly cover the sun during an eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
It's not too big, not too small. It's just right. And I mean, I think the odds of that happening on a galactic scale are extremely, extremely, that's crazy.
You think about this as well, Scott. If we go, we can even look at Mars, right? Because Elon's planning on going up there soon. There was talk of maybe setting off nukes, things like that. Well, maybe if we go forward into the future where we are a spacefaring civilization, and we go out to a planet, and it's got all the raw materials we need. It's got water, it's got the right lights in the Goldilocks zone. Only thing is, though, maybe it needs something there to kind of control the tides, something like that to make it a bit more habitable. I reckon at that point we would probably be looking for an asteroid that we could bring into orbit, maybe set up as some kind of artificial satellite. So I definitely think there could be some to that too.
That is discussion that I've seen talked about by, the mainstream scientific community, talking about colonizing Mars. Because I don't think a lot of people know that Mars, over a certain million-year period, I forget the actual timeline, but it's in the millions of years. Its axis flips and it tumbles. It does. We were talking about the rotation of the Earth, right, and how we kind of have that slight wobble.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Mars has that in a really, really horrible way. I mean, when it decides it's going to go into its tumbling phase, it literally starts tumbling, and it's almost like rotating sideways, and it's a bad deal. And there's a lot of speculation of, is that why, it was once a really, life-bearing planet, and does it go through these cycles where it goes through this tumbling phase and it kind of ends up wiping out anything that manages to evolve over a period of time? Because I've heard them talk about, they said that there has been like 4 or 5 different times that life may have existed on Mars and have been completely wiped out and then reset all over.
We talk about this all the time as well, right? The Arabic word for Cairo, Al-Kahari, and it literally means like the base of Mars. It refers to Mars. So maybe we came from there. So if we came from there, then maybe that bit of asteroid, maybe that was used. Maybe that was a part of a moon at some point. Maybe that was part of something that was dragged in here, or dragged away from Mars. I don't know. Yeah. I think there's so much about space that's still to be found out, and that's why it really excites me right now. I know people, it's easy to hate on billionaires like Musk and that, but he's literally putting us on the cusp of that spacefaring age that I was talking about. It's going to be so exciting,
Yeah. Yeah, and going back to the Mars thing, I just thought it was really interesting because this was mainstream science talking about it, and they were saying that if we were to colonize Mars, that we would have to create an artificial moon to stabilize its rotation, because that's what keeps the Earth's rotational axis from doing what Mars does. We have a wobble,
Sure.
But we don't end up tumbling over a certain period of time because the moon provides this stabilization force to the planet's rotation.
Like a
And
counterbalance.
I'm meant to believe that's just luck, Scott, that just happened precisely the way we needed it to happen. Dang, we're lucky.
Exactly. And so, now you have a lot of people talking about, well, is the moon an artificial structure, or what was it brought here? And now, we have our own scientists and talking, as you call them in the UK, Kev, the boffins, talking about yes, the boffins talking about, well, we need to bring an artificial structure over to Mars in order to stabilize its rotation. That way we can terraform it and not end up suffering some kind of a cataclysm down the road. And so you got to think, well, if a species was coming to Earth to settle, and there was nothing to stabilize its rotation, and they probably were like, we need to bring something in to make this planet a little more hospitable.
Maybe that's
we love legends, don't we? I mean, look at the Zulus. They've got the two Zulu brothers that basically dragged the moon here because they wanted to make it habitable. They were basically terraforming. You could look at the stories of the Anunnaki as well. If you've got a race of beings out there that's traversing vast areas of space, then is it beyond the realms of possibility they could drag something in that they've maybe done this many times before? It excites me, Brent. I know a lot of people like to hate on NASA as well. Me and my good friend Brendan Drackler, I get him on the show. He literally does projects with NASA and things like that, and he always triggers people by putting his NASA patch up on the wall. I think they're like any other organization. You got to use discernment. I don't think it's all lies. Do they lie? Oh, hell yeah. But again, you can't just go throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and just because NASA says something, it must be fake. I think that would be a really easy way for them to hide things if we all felt that way.
Yeah.
I think they got to the moon. I don't honestly know. I could make a good case either way. I find it interesting when we're going back now with the Artemis Accord and everything getting signed. You sometimes hear them saying that, for the first time in so long, we'll be able to get men and women up there. Well, if they were doing this back in the 60s, how come it's taken us so long to get back to doing it?
Right.
It's weird. So I don't know, but space is the next frontier. I love it, dude.
Yes, I think I do too, and I think it's exciting. Of course, I grew up on or at least part of my youth was Star Trek. Then the Next Generation, when that came out, I was like, this would be cool. Star Wars, the idea that we could just hop into a ship and go across the cosmos. I mean, that's exciting to me. I'm really excited about that. I don't think I'll probably see it in my lifetime, but maybe our kids will. And it's encouraging, to think that we started out that way, and maybe that's why we're always drawn to the stars, and this exploration that we seem to just have as, an encoded part of our genetics. We want to
That's the weird thing, though, right? That's the weird thing, because you look at any other technology, from the car to anything else, and you go back to the 60s, and you can watch it slowly speeding up, the advancements getting better all the time. But space, it's the only one that didn't only stagnate, it kind of went backwards.
Right.
I just find that a bit weird,
I've used your example. I heard you say it on a show long ago, but you're like, look at your cell phone, look at the phone, look how it's been transformed into this thing that fits in your pocket. It's a supercomputer in your pocket by all intents and means. And then look at all of our other technologies, and then we're still lighting rockets and pushing stuff up into space. And it's like, you're right. That's the one thing that has remained absolutely stagnant. And there's got to be a better way.
I would imagine so. I'm kind of skeptical on some of the secret space whistleblowers, but do I believe there's a secret space program?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hell yeah. Well,
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's, maybe we do already have that. What were you going to say, Scotty?
Oh no, I was just gonna say no. You're right. I mean, look, all of the rockets we're using today is still using that Saturn V Werner von Braun technology, and it hasn't. We haven't seen like any of this radical leap in propulsion technology. You know, compared to everything else, you know, the technological advancements of everything else has accelerated, but it seems like space travel has stagnated, and so I don't know, man. I think you know, I think there's this genetic memory that we have that there's this like feeling that we need to get to Mars for some reason.
Yeah.
Like just there's this deep embedded feeling that it's almost like we know that that's where we came from, and it's like we want to return home or something. You know,
we're being called. Yeah, sure.
Could even be a survival instinct, Scott. You know, maybe in case something did happen here, we appreciate we would need to spread our gene pool out further. You know.
So let me throw this out there. What if we've just been bouncing back and forth? And how many times have we been bouncing back and forth?
we go burn up a planet, then we go to the next one, then we go back to the other one. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we you know, we stay on Earth until it's time to get out of there, and we go back to Mars, and then we stay on Mars until something bad's about to happen there. We jump back to Earth. I mean, who knows? You know, we don't know how many times we've done this on this planet. So who knows how many times we've done that on multiple planets?
Maybe that's why we have artifacts out of time then too, right? Because that's just from one of our previous incursions here.
Maybe.
Wow. A good point. Yeah, it could be.
That'll cook your bacon.
Yes,
yeah, definitely. At 12 minutes to 5 a.m., that's enough to split your mind open. Big time.
Hey, that's what we do here on you know, if you're bringing Freaky Friday into the fray, we got to bring a little mind meltage to the table.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. But I love these discussions because, again, you know, we're talking about the paranormal and all the answers it has, and just imagine how many answers are out there in the stars. You know, things that we have so much to learn from, and what is possible and what could be possible, and if they, you know, can develop the warp field and, you know, push us out into, you know, past light speed into these other parts of the cosmos. I think it's amazing. I think it's so exciting. I'm with you, Kev. Would you be one of the first people on Mars?
If I could, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. Since I was a wee guy, I thought we would have been doing that kind of thing long ago. I said to somebody in the chat room earlier, I honestly thought when I was growing up, there would be the chance to be like, go out to the asteroid belt, be a miner, be something like that. So, yeah, I would go there in a heartbeat. I truly, truly would. I forgot what I was going to say now. I had something interesting to say. I'm sure it was, but it's gone right out of my head. It's totally gone.
Well, you've been at this for a while too, but no, I think we've got a long way to go though. But I do hope that, you know, we continue to aim upwards. But I think we also have to aim here too, because there's so much of this place we don't understand. You know, that we're still.
Yeah, I've said that many times. I've said that, like, look, we don't even know it's in our own oceans. Like, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about like our own oceans, and that's kind of crazy in itself, right? And it kind of goes back to the whole arrogance thing I was talking about earlier of our species, where we think we know everything, but really we don't know anything. We don't know jack about a lot of what's going on our own planet. So,
you know, you think about AI, and I think AI is probably going to, sometime pretty soon, with all of the data that we've stored from SETI and every other radio telescope that's out there, it could well be we've had like first contact, there's been communication made, only we didn't recognize it. And at that AI, again, we're at this kind of big jump, a big leap forward, one small step for man, that kind of thing, right? Quantum computing, for me, it opens up a whole conversation on perhaps, that's a level of criteria, a level of technology. Once you get to there, and I'll explain why I think it might be key in a moment. I think once you get to there, you might start to find more species, more races out there getting in touch.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because when you look at Geordie Rose and what he says about the D wave, can never get it out of my mind that he talks about it being in this dimension and another dimension. And I add that to all the kind of sci-fi books that I read. And if you do have some kind of AI or even quantum...
Uh-oh. Did we lose it? Lose Kev?
Oh, maybe. Am I still here?
You're still here. I'm still here.
Okay.
And everything looks like it's still connected.
I think we might have lost Kev.
Well, whatever he was going to say was going to be epic. I know it. Unfortunately, I don't know if we're going to get it. I'm not sure what happened. That's weird. Yeah, he's just like totally gone. Tell if
we can try to re-add him to the call.
Yeah, let me take a look at that call.
His Skype might have crashed.
Right. Hold on a sec. I gotta see.
His Skype.
What's that?
Yeah, his Skype crashed. I'll re-add him. Give me a second.
All right, there you go. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, there's so much we have to learn. There's so much we got to figure out. Obviously, we're not going to probably do it tonight, but we've definitely put it on the agenda of things we want to do. Hey, it's
there we go.
Kev Baker Show.
Yeah, I tell you what, I think the AI didn't like me talking about that, boys. That said, "Whoa, Baker, put a hold on that one."
Beep. Yep.
Yeah. I'm not going back onto that conversation again. That was obviously too close to the other dimension, guys.
No.
Yeah.
So
you get what I mean, though. If we're like communicating outside of time and space, and there's other advanced civilizations out there, I would imagine they would recognize that. I'd imagine they'd say, "Oh, there's a new kid on the block here," Yep.
Yeah, like so. If we're firing up a D wave and it's tapping into these kind of multi-dimensional,
space, call it whatever you will. Yeah, I don't know.
That would be an indicator, like these other civilizations or multi-dimensional sort of species might pick that up and go, oh, they've reached a certain threshold. They've hit that level where they're developing, this AI and artificial intelligence. Let's go say hi.
And Scott, think about it, and Brent as well. Elon Musk, always talk about him, but something put the fear of God into him, where not only did he start talking about AI and like this could be bad juju, but it pushed him to the point where he started to accelerate his plans to get off the planet. So I don't know if he's seen one of the cutting edge AIs, if he's seen the quantum computer that we haven't seen or talked about.
Sure.
And whatever he's seen, maybe it was like a light going on out in subspace. You get good civilizations going, oh yeah, we can go and join up with them, but then you got the reptilian boys out there as well, right? Yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I tell you, it all adds to the great conversations that we have on here, right?
Absolutely. And it gives us fodder for many, many more. We're about at the 2-minute warning here, but I just wanted to ask you, just in a yes or no, Kev, do you think there's anything to the crop circles or the crop things?
Yeah, not all of them.
Yeah, sure.
But definitely easier you can tell when it's a real one versus a fake one. What it means, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. And Scotty?
Yeah, there's I think there's definitely something to crop circles, and like Kev, I think that there's a probably a greater percentage of them that are fake, but there is a smaller percentage that are the real deal and are completely unexplained, and I have no idea what's going on there either.
Okay.
It's definitely weird.
Definitely weird, but that's where we live.
Into the simulation and tagged it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a hack. But, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take a moment and thank both of our guests, Scott and Kev. You guys have been amazing. It's been an epic journey tonight. You guys brought it home in a big way, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with us and letting us be there.
Oh, Brent, you guys delivered on Freaky Friday. It's been awesome, dude. Can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, we'll have to make up a new one since I don't think waiting until August is okay. I think we got to do it before
March or April time. That's sounding about good. That's kind
Yeah.
of halfway between the two. Yeah, we'll find an excuse.
that. All right. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys had a great time with us. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for all that you guys have done to help spread the word about the Paranormal Portal. Please share these episodes. Please spread the word. Let other people know about the portal, and subscribe if you're not already, if you're on YouTube. But that's going to wrap it up for us. So I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice, take care of each other, help each other out, find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Good night, everybody.